Aloha Foilers, this is Brian Finch of Foil the World, and today we're reviewing the Armstrong Foils HS series. I'm going to talk about all three wings, the 1850, the 1250, and the 1050, and what tails, which fuselages, what shims I'm using, and when, and what kind of conditions, and what kind of waves, and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to break it down. So here we go, let's start with the 1850. This is a big old wing, look how broad it is. It's wide, this is a lot of wing. However, it's thin, high speed. This wing goes surprisingly fast. It is an 1850, but it's got a fairly thin profile, thins out quite a bit through the trailing edge. It's fairly flat. All of these HS wings are fairly flat throughout it with a bit of hook near the tips there for carvability and hold. I'm mostly using this for hand winging when the waves are very small, and even more so when the wind is very light. This wing will pop you up onto foil very easy. But like I'm saying, you can still push it in winds and just demand speed out of this guy. This wing has an incredible amount of glide. It's very forgiving when you're tacking and jibing. You can almost run out of all your speed, do your turn and kind of grab the wing, power back up and get going without completely falling off a foil. It's super forgiving for that. I'm also using this wing to stay on foil when I'm prone foiling. If I want to do double, triple, as many dips as I can, connect waves and stay on foil as long as possible, this is a great option. It has such a great low end glide, and like I'm saying, you can still push it and get up to nice speeds. But if you want to pump all day long, not come off foil and just bounce around, this is such a great wing for that. I think it's great for learning the hand wing as well because it's stable, it has low end lift, high speed capability, super stable, just an all around user friendly good wing, and it turns. You can still carve and turn with this thing. When I'm winging in the wind, I pretty much only use the 232 chop shop tail without chopping it. It adds that extra stability, and I think with the winglets so curved up like this, it really lets you lean over on your side and push hard into the wind, work upwind, just a nice stable feel. For me, my personal use on the 1850, I'm using it in very low wind to wing. I'm using it to prone foil when it's very tiny, and my priority is just staying up on foil as long as possible, double dipping and cruising, and always using it with the 232 chop shop tail without chopping, and a 60 millimeter fuselage. When I'm winging, I go from the 50 up to the 60. So the next wing on the list is the 1250. That's this bad boy right here. The HS 1250 is an incredible wing. It's very fast. Look at how narrow the cord is here. It has tons of glide, tons of speed through the water, very little resistance, but still has enough of that angled tips here to give you nice carving. A lot of people are using this as their like hot dog wing, and they say it's bashing whitewash great. They're doing, hard turns and carving, all that kind of stuff on this wing. I'm not personally using it for prone carving and prone hot dogging. I go to the 1050 for that, but you can do it on this thing. Personally, I love the 1250 for winging. When the wind is strong, medium to strong, this thing is just so fast, so easy to ride, plenty of glide. You can still shred it, you can lay the rail and carve very hard on this wing. It pumps extremely well. Like I'm saying, fast through the water, low resistance. It's just an all-around great wing. If I'm not riding it with the wind wing, I'm using it to prone downwind, which is nice and quick. It's not gonna win any races, but it is fast enough to get you into these lumps. Like the other wings, it has a very thin, narrow profile. It's got kind of a dihedral through the top, I guess you would call it. And through the back, it is bowed out a little bit in the front, and then tapers off to a great, super thin trailing edge. Regardless of what you're using it for, it's just an all-around winner. When I'm riding that wind with the wing, I also couple this with the 232, and again, I just like it for tacking and leaning into the wing really hard for long distances, fighting up wind. I used to couple this when I'm wing riding with a 2-1-2 chop shop tail, but when I switched back to the 232, I did find improved low end lift, like landing airs and staying on foil, or even popping straight back up on foil. This made it a lot easier. It is nicer when you're trying to fight upwind and you're tacking and leaning over really hard. It gives you that extra stability and bite, and it still carves great, and it's still a fast wing. I do like this 2-3-2 when I'm using any type of wind apparatus, so to speak. So the 1250, when I'm winging it, I'm also using the 60 fuselage with the 2-3-2 tail and a +1 shim. That is my formula. It's basically the same thing I'm doing when I'm riding the 1850. 1850, 1250. This is a super scientific demonstration here, but I hope it can kind of give you an idea. Wingspans are a lot different on this guy. The cord is quite a bit more narrow, just an all-around smaller, thinner, faster wing. When I'm proning the 1250, whether it be downwind, double dipping, trying to shred, whatever, I use the 2-1-2 chop shop wing, nice and chopped here. It just keeps this fairly broad wing nice and loose and maneuverable. And the speed and resistance in pumping is quite noticeable. But I also add the 50 centimeter fuselage. And what that does, it really tightens up your turning radius. You can arc that much harder, either up to the lip or back towards the whitewash. Just nice and squirrely. I don't notice any lack of pump switching to the 50. It feels great, keeps it nice and loose and killer. The next wing in this lineup is the 1050. This is one of my favorite wings of all time. The 1050 can kind of do it all. I mean, it's fast, it pumps good, not great, but it pumps good. It's super shreddy in the waves. It's a very surfy wing, does amazing in the whitewash. The 1050 is one of my favorite wings of all time. It just kind of does it all. You can use this for everything. The very first time I ever tried this wing, we were tow foiling, and it was like 4 feet to 6 feet plus on the sets. And this thing, not ideal. It's still a lot of surface for, you know, those larger sets, but it handled. You could still do it, you know, lean forward, and the thing was good to go. I've ridden this wave from knee-high waves all the way up to, you know, those 6 foot plus, 8 foot bombers. And it's just one of the most versatile wings I've ever ridden. I know guys that are 200 pounds that pump this wing just fine, and they'll double dip and connect and rip this wing. Myself, I'm 155 pounds, and I find it pretty easy to pump. It's not going to pump like a 1250 or a high aspect wing, but for me it pumps plenty fine, especially when I throw on the 2-1-2 tail with a +1 shim. The very first time I did that, it was very noticeable. I probably increased my pump efficiency by maybe 20%, which is quite a lot. You really feel it. I love this wing when you're trying to shortboard, hot dog, trying to shred. It reacts wonderfully in the whitewash. You can lay it over to carve as hard as you can. It doesn't slip or slide out. I hear often, and I've seen it with my own eyes, guys riding this 1050 with winging also, very maneuverable. You just need enough wind to get up and going, and then it is an extremely fun and viable option for riding the wing with this combo. I've yet to try it myself because the 1250 just works so good for that. And this island, we don't have as much consistent cranking wind, and I get sometimes worried about sacrificing a session to a wing when I know my other wing works so good for it, but I mean, that's part of the game. And so how about this? Next time, I'm gonna use this bad boy for winging when there's enough wind, and I'll let you know how it goes. But from everyone I've talked to, they really enjoy this for wind winging as well. So when I'm riding the 1050, I'm always using the same combos nowadays. I'm using the 2-1-2 tail, I'm using a 50 millimeter fuselage and the +1 shim, and it just seems to be the most high performance setup I've used yet. 1050 summary, it does it all. If you're not a great pumper, you might be a little disappointed by this wing because it's smaller, it doesn't pump insane. But if you're a proficient pumper, you're using a +1 shim, you've got a right spot on your board, there's a little reverberation in the water, a little backwash or something like that, or the waves are close together, it's fairly easy to double a dip on this thing. You can pump it very far, but you know, you got to be in shape. You got to have a nice pump technique. It's such a high performance and extremely versatile wing. 1250, here is the 1050. You can see here how the 1050 is much more swept, a bit more curve, as whereas the 1250 it has a bit more of a straighter outline here throughout the trailing edge. A little bit more narrow in the cord from leading edge to trailing edge. It's a bit more narrow there. Here's a bit of a side-by-side comparison here. The 2-3-2 before being chopped down to the 2-1-2. And you know, you don't have to chop on the line. You can take just a little bit off or a lot of it if you're brave there. But just kind of give you an idea of the sizes here. One of the biggest upgrades you can do in performance for your foil is to switch out the fuselage to something shorter. Here's a 50, here's a 60, to give you an idea. 60, like I was saying, I use mostly for winging or downwind for a little bit of extra stability when I'm downwinding. The 50 is kind of like the daily driver. It's when you want to shortboard your foil, tight arcs, rippable kind of approach to things. Takes some getting used to for sure. The pitch can be very hard to control at first when you're not used to these fuselages, but give it a few days or a few sessions and it will click. And eventually you don't even really notice too much you're on a short fuselage, you just get so used to it. The 60 does add increased stability. I do use it for downwinding, and I use it for when I'm winging, especially if I'm winging on a larger board. It just gives you that stability. I have a 70-meter fuselage somewhere, and I haven't used it for so long I can't even find it. But if I was going to do a serious downwinder prone, if I'm looking to go distances or teaching someone how to foil, or if someone's real big, I think that's where the 70 really comes in handy. It's just, longer wheelbase. It's going to be a lot more secure and stable in pitch. So yeah, I don't use mine often anymore, but it certainly still has its place. Okay, mast. Let's talk about the mast. This is a 60-centimeter mast, or 24 inches. This is a little guy. This is not the smallest. I believe there's a 45-centimeter mast, which is ideal to teach someone on first days or first weeks. 45 is a very safe height to fall from, a little safer and easier. This is a 60-centimeter mast. A lot of people are going to shorter masts because they're very rippable. There's less lag time between your turns. There's more direct drive from your body straight to the foil through the mast. It's very forgiving when you're hitting whitewash because you're closer to the whitewash. Your board is getting more pivot off the whitewash and kind of aiding you in coming off of those moves. Also very forgiving and easier for like throwing the tail like a shortboard and boosting airs. Easier to spin and just manipulate the foil in the air or even just under your feet in the whitewash and that kind of stuff. Takes some getting used to though, certainly. When it's choppy and you're trying to get over bumps, this is not a great option. You end up bottoming them out or breaching fairly easy. That's when you're going to want to go to a 72. The 60 is great for riding low tide spots, which I should do more often because my poor wings get so scratched up. Half the spots we surf over here are just so shallow all the time, even high tide is frustrating. This is the 72-centimeter mast, or 28.5 inches. This thing is a great all-around size. It's short enough to be maneuverable. It's long enough to get you over bumps. 72 centimeters seems to be a nice sweet spot where it does a little bit of everything very well. If you can only afford one mast, this is definitely the go-to. This is the 85-centimeter mast, or 33.5 inches. I forgot to take the fuselage off here. This is a 60-centimeter fuselage to give you an idea. It pretty much is always on because I use this for winging and downwind with the wing or prone, as well as bigger waves. This longer mast is excellent for all those applications. I don't like to prone normal size waves or smaller waves with the 85. It just feels super long. There's more drag, of course, more mast in the water. It's a little bit less responsive, but as soon as there's size and power, you don't really feel that. It cancels out quickly. It's great for downwinding. It gets you over these bumps without breaching your wing, while you also don't scrub the bottom of your board off the wave trough. When it's really steep troughs like this in the waves, you need that extra distance to just get over those bumps while keeping your wing in the water. Little extra length goes a long ways with that. All the Armstrong masts have this very thin kind of little cushion on the bottom, helps kind of grip and seat very nicely, but it's not so thick where you're going to get any kind of spongy motion from your mast. I love how these masts have a slide-in insert, but they also have another hole further back, and this lets you adjust your foil either extremely far forward in your box or extremely far back. It just gives you that extra 1.5 inches or so of leeway to adjust your mast in the box. Boxes are not all set the same distance from the tail, so at times that comes in extremely handy. 60, 72, 85, and the 45 is like this. With these three lengths, there's pretty much don't need anything else unless you're surfing like giant waves, then you're going to want to go to like a 95 or 100 centimeter mast, something like that. Super solid, super stiff mast, super high quality, like everything Armstrong does. Thank you for watching this breakdown and review. Let me know how you use your gear, what combinations, shims and tails, for what conditions, all that. I would love to know. I love how we all share information. I learn from you guys. I hope you learned something from me. I hope I saved you a couple bucks in decisions here and there. If you find any value from these videos, again, please like, subscribe, share with your friends, comment, all that great stuff. It is super helpful. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and I'm on YouTube. So check me out in all these spots. And I really appreciate you guys watching. Thank you very much, and foil the world.